All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this webinar. I know that you all have busy schedules, so I hope that you get something helpful out of this. My name is Tara Anderson. I've been managing the MRSC Rosters service for a few years now, and I'll be your presenter today. I want to also thank my colleague, Leah Lasivita, and she's making sure the webinar runs smoothly. She'll also be sending me your questions at the end of the presentation during our Q&A session. So thanks, Leah. Before we jump into things, I just want to review a few technical notes. During the webinar, if you have any technical trouble, you can call our front desk at 206-625-1300, the number there on the screen. When you first entered the webinar, you're going to notice that this toolbar appeared on the side of your screen. So you can click that orange arrow and then to expand that toolbar, and then to submit questions or comments, you can expand this question section here and send your questions. You can send those at any time, but we will be waiting until the end to answer those questions. And just so you all know, this webinar is being recorded, and I will be emailing you a link to that recording so you can share it with colleagues, and later it will be posted to the website as well. So if there's anyone else in your office who should see this, or you can't stay for the whole webinar, no worries, we can send you that recording. So what we'll cover today is a quick overview of what MRSC Rosters is, because some of you might not really know. It sounds like a lot of you signed up just because an agency told you to, and that's pretty much it. So we'll touch on that, and then we'll talk about the application a little bit, just about the renewal and how you can go about editing your application, and then some application highlights where I do see a lot of businesses having questions. We'll also talk about how the public agencies that you're listed with actually use this to search for businesses. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll have some time for questions. So we can go ahead and get started here. So as a reminder, though some of you already know, MRSC Rosters is essentially the only directory out there that will connect businesses like yours with over 500 public agencies in Washington State. And participating agencies contract with our business members for small public works projects, consulting opportunities, and goods and services. And then on the agency side, it's an efficient and affordable way for cities, counties, and special purpose districts in Washington State to procure services using a roster contracting process. So for a small membership fee, these agencies can save staff time and financial resources by having us provide full maintenance of their individual rosters. And I did mention the roster contracting process, which is the process where agencies actually use this to find businesses. So I just want to touch on what that means really quickly. There are generally two approaches to public works contracting, a full bid process or a roster process. And most Washington local governments have the option to use a roster process instead of a full bid process for public works projects that are under $300,000 and for small to medium-sized consultant projects, as well as some of their vendor needs for goods and materials. So in the full bid process, an agency would post an advertisement for the specific project, usually in a local newspaper and with the Daily Journal of Commerce or Business, and then they would pick businesses from the respondents based on that advertisement that they posted. But if an agency uses a roster process, they'll not post an advertisement like that. Instead, they're just going to search their roster by service category and contact businesses directly about the project. So that being said, these opportunities that come through the roster process are not advertised, the only way to know about these projects is when you're signed up on that agency's roster. So you can see that it's pretty important to make sure you are registered and with us, and you have the agencies selected that you want so that you're not missing out on opportunities. So you might be wondering who uses this, what agencies are actually searching for businesses through this service. And there are a lot. I'm not going to list them all off. You can see a full list on the website, but there are cities like Spokane, Renton, and Everett, and counties like Pierce County, Skagit County, and tons of special purpose districts, school districts, Sound Transit, Energy Northwest. They're all using this to find businesses like yours. So again, just it is important to make sure you're signed up so you're not missing out on the opportunities that they're sending out through this. So now we'll just really quickly talk about how you can get signed up if you're not already, but I think most of you are based on the registration questions you answered. We'll also talk about how to renew if your account is about to expire or is already expired. And then we'll talk about some updates or different updates that you can make to your application, just so you know how to edit it and what that looks like. So let's jump into that now. So sign up is pretty easy. Most of you already are signed up, but for those of you who aren't, just go to the website, create an account, and fill out an application. We review those applications every 2 to 3 business days. If there's any hiccup in that, we'll reach out to you if we have further questions. And if you have questions while you're filling out your application, just contact us. To reiterate, once you are an active member with us, your membership is going to include the opportunity to register on local government, small public works, consultant and vendor rosters, and you can sign up with multiple agencies with just one online application that you fill out just once, and then you just renew once a year. You can select up to 9 different agencies for free with the basic application, which is, I think, what most of you are doing. But you can also select 10 or more, as many as you'd like, for just a small $10 administrative fee. And then if you're an enhanced member, which I know some of you are, you actually can get listed with every agency with one click, and then as new agencies join, they're automatically added to your selection, so you don't have to worry about ever missing out on that. And we do have over 30 new agencies joining on average every year, so that just means that the opportunities continue to grow. And once you're registered, another benefit is that you're eligible to receive these job notifications from participating agencies. And again, these aren't advertised jobs generally, so if you're not signed up, you might be missing out. So let's talk about how you renew. Again, it's a pretty simple process. Many of you might have done this in the past. You have to renew once a year. We remind you, so you don't have to worry about missing that deadline. But if you do and your account is deactivated, you can renew at any time just by logging back in and reactivating and renewing. So when you log in, you just click the renewal button. You'll confirm that old information is up to date, update those expiration dates. I've had a lot of agencies, a little bit frustrated if they see that insurance is expired or your contractor's license is expired in there. So just keep that up to date. If you need to make changes during a time that is not your renewal period, that's fine. You can edit your application at any time. And this is also a pretty easy process. You just log into your account, click the edit to edit your application, and then you can just select that icon next to any section you want to edit. And I'll show you a quick video of what that looks like, if I can get my mouse to cooperate with me. Just so you can see what that interface looks like. and understand how easy it is to just make those updates. And then I do want to mention too that as new agencies join, we do email you and keep you up to date with any changes. So you're not going to miss out, on opportunities or just that knowledge of knowing when it's time to maybe go in and make updates when it's not your renewal period. So let's go ahead and talk about some application highlights, different sections that I think are important to really understand and things that a lot of businesses have reached out to me with questions about. So first we have the roster type, which is something you select in that first part of the application. And there are 3 different roster types that you can choose to be listed in, and any combination of the 3. There's the small works roster type, and that's going to cover construction type categories and maintenance and repair. There's the consultant roster, that's generally architecture and engineering type services, and other professional services like legal or environmental consulting. And then there's the vendor roster. So that's for goods, supplies, or purchase services like mechanic work. It's really important that you choose the roster types accurately. These determine which service categories you get to choose later on in your application. And also you don't want to get listed on the wrong roster, because then agencies are going to contact you for jobs that don't apply to what you do, and that just kind of wastes their time and your time. So just pay special attention to that. And if you have questions about that, reach out and we can sort of help talk through what roster type might be best for your business type. Secondly, I want to talk about certifications. It's kind of a hot topic right now. A lot of agencies are paying more and more attention to this specific area. So this is the section in your application where you can identify as a woman-owned business, minority-owned business, veteran-owned business, and so on. It's really important. Don't skip it. If you have any of these certifications, then enter that in. If you are waiting to get a certification number, you just haven't done that yet, you can actually just write self-certified like I show here on the screen in the field, and that way you can update later with certification numbers, but you're still able to sort of say to the agency, hey, I do have this qualification, and that just will draw their attention to that. So that's a good thing. If you want to find out more about obtaining certifications, you can visit omwbe.wa.org and sba.gov. Both of those organizations offer certifications and other great resources. So another section that a lot of folks ask about is the Statement of Qualifications section. So this is the part of the application where you can upload an SOQ document, which is required for consultants. And like I mentioned, consultants are businesses who are providing architecture, engineering type services, as well as other consulting like IT, HR consulting, that kind of thing. And this document can stand in for marketing materials. You should upload a new one every year, because agencies need to see a new one every year. If they're looking right now at your application, they download that Statement of Qualifications and it's from last year or 2 years ago, they're not going to consider you one of the best qualified consultancies. And that when they're choosing consultants to work with on projects, it's based on qualifications, not on the lowest bidder, at least up front. They first look at your qualifications. So this is a really important document. On the screen here, I just show an outline of what you might want to include in that document. This is just a basic outline. I'd suggest that you keep it under 20 pages and try to make it easily skimmable so that when agencies are quickly looking through what your specialties are, they can really get a sense of that quickly. I do have a sample document. So if anyone is interested in seeing a sample SOQ, you can reach out to me directly after this webinar, and I can email you just what that SOQ looks like. And now we'll move on to a couple other sections, the service category section and the public agency rosters section. This might be a refresher for some of you out there, but these are just important details to keep in mind. So in the service section, obviously, this is where you select the categories. And remember that these categories are based on the roster type that you already chose earlier on. So if you've selected just small works, roster type, then you're only going to see small works service categories. If you select the other roster types, you'll see the additional categories. When you're selecting your categories and updating services, just make sure you're choosing accurately. Don't choose services you don't provide. This can really frustrate agencies. When I talk to different agencies out there, that's one of their complaints, is that businesses say they provide something and they don't. And while that might seem harmless and you might think, oh, if I select more services, I'll get more contacts. The problem is that if they see your business over and over again misrepresenting what you actually do, they're going to think, oh, that business is not worth my time, and they're not going to think positively. And that just kind of can ruin your chances at having a good relationship with those agencies. So that's really important. Just, I can't stress that enough. And then if you don't see a category represented and it's something you provide and you think it's pretty important that we have that on there, you can actually suggest a category. Here is a link on the actual services page where you can submit a suggestion. You can email us directly with suggestions. We are always taking those suggestions and assessing them and seeing what should be added. And we're actually going to be doing this process in the next couple of months here. So if you do have a suggestion for a category we should add, please do get that into me really soon so we can consider it. The last section I'll touch on is the public agency roster section. So obviously, this is where you choose the agencies you want to be listed with. And again, I want to stress that you should only be choosing agencies in the areas where you're able and willing to work. So if your firm is only able to provide your service in counties within a 150-mile radius of your location, then you shouldn't select agencies outside of that area. Just select where you actually serve, because this is going to really help you be considered for projects that are actually applicable to you and the ones that you really care about. If you have different branches that serve different regions, then it's beneficial to just have each branch maintain its own account and be represented in those different areas across the state. Again, over 30 new agencies join every year. So as new agencies join, it's a good idea to update your agency selections. We do email you when new agencies join, so you're always in the loop. You probably heard from me recently that 24 new agencies have just joined. So it is a good time to check out that part of your application and just update your selections. Some of you out there are enhanced members. That's awesome. And that means that any new agencies that have joined within your county grouping selection or your statewide selection, they're automatically added to your account. So you guys are good to go. You don't have to worry about this particular part of account maintenance. So you might be wondering now if you're an active member or if you're expired. So a good thing to do is to log in and find out. You can see your status in the upper right corner, or you can actually search for registered active businesses on the website without logging in. So I'll demonstrate that here in this little video. You can click on this registered businesses link and type in the name or just search. It's listed alphabetically. And if you see your name listed there, you're an active member and you're good to go. If you're not listed, that probably means you've expired or you didn't finish your application. So it's good to check on that. If you are just submitting a new application, you will show up on this list after your application is approved. So just keep that in mind if you don't see yourself pop up in there immediately. And if you have a hard time figuring out whether you're active or not, and you just want someone to tell you what your status is, you can contact us through the website or by email. So now let's go ahead and move on to how agencies use this to search for businesses like yours. At this time, if you have questions that are specific to what we covered in the business application, you can start to submit those now. Again, we're not going to be answering those questions though until the end of the presentation. So once you have an active account with MRSC Rosters, you're listed with your selected agencies. That means you're eligible to receive project opportunities. Keep in mind, we do not post project opportunities like some of the other websites you're probably used to using. So you don't visit our website and look for opportunities. We don't post that stuff. How it works is agencies search for businesses when they have a need or a project coming up, and they'll access their account and they'll search by roster type, which we talked about earlier. There's the small works consultant and vendor. And then they filter for businesses by service category. Again, these are the same categories that you guys all get to select from. So like I said, really important that you choose accurately because this is really how they're targeting their list. Once they've selected this stuff, they search for their businesses and they'll be given a list of eligible businesses to contact. So let's talk about how you know if your business appears on a list when an agency searches. You'll appear on an agency's roster when they have, when your business has selected to be on that agency's roster, and when the agency that you're listed with has searched a roster type that you are on, so the small works consultant or vendor, depending, and then that agency then has searched for a service or services that you selected and provide. So those are the parameters, essentially. You're not going to appear on a list otherwise. If you think that you should have been considered for a project or shown up on a list and you weren't contacted by the agency, then you'll want to contact the agency directly and just ask them why. And if they need us to check and see if there's something going on in the account that sort of prevented that, then they'll reach out to us and we'll figure it out as well. But generally it comes down to how the agency searched and what their actual needs were. And then also some agencies have internal rotation policies where they're rotating through the list and contacting maybe 5 different businesses, and then they'll next time move down that list and contact the next 5. So that might be another reason why the opportunity might not have reached you. But again, that can vary by agency. So it's totally fine to reach out, ask the agency what their policy is and how they're doing this. Once you're on that list and the agency is contacting these businesses that are eligible, they're going to contact you directly from their own email client. They're not emailing you through MRSC. So they're going to send you their RFPs, their RFQs, their bid documents, and they're going to send this by email. There are some agencies out there who will call businesses before they send out this stuff to verify a business's interest and availability. I know that Capitol Hill Housing does this. I just talked to them and this is what they do. They will call first. So really make sure all of that contact information is up to date so you're not missing out. And let's see. Before we wrap things up, I do want to talk about some frequently asked questions. Some of these questions did come up in the questions you submitted during registration, so this might be helpful for some of you. Something I hear often is like, why should I be signed up? Why is it important to stay signed up? And the reason really is that these agencies aren't posting advertisements for these opportunities that are coming through the rosters. So you're not going to know about an opportunity if you're not signed up. So really just as common sense to stay active and make sure that you're not missing out. Another question I get are there jobs posted on MRSC rosters? And we just talked about that. So no, there are not. It's just a roster process, traditional functioning. So the agencies are searching for businesses. The agencies are coming to you with their requests for proposals and bids or quotes. So you don't need to visit our website and log in and search for things. That's not how it works. And then lastly, another common question or one that comes up that seems important is I'm signed up on the rosters, but I haven't been contacted by any agencies. Why is that? And there are different reasons why that could be. Your account might be inactive. So if that's the case, agency can't find you. And the other reason is out-of-date contact information. I've been getting a lot of emails actually from agencies who say their emails aren't getting through to businesses. Some of that might be out-of-date email addresses. Another thing is there can be issues with your spam or firewall filter blocking these agencies' emails. They are bulk mail from local government, so you want to just make sure that your email client is accepting those and not blocking them as spam. And lastly, of course, just agency needs vary and change season by season, year over year. And also sometimes if a contract is established with a business, that's going to be a year, 2 years, whatever, that can prolong, the ability to offer new opportunities. So just keep those things in mind if you're not hearing from agencies as you expected to. So that's really it. I know we covered a lot of details, but I want to do a quick recap here and just make sure you know that you should log in, make sure your account is current, you don't have expired information in there. Remember to renew annually. You can make sure that you're listed with all the agencies that you want to be listed with, and keep in mind that agencies contact you directly, so you don't need to search for projects on our website. So at this time, you can start sending in those questions to me if you have any. As a reminder to send those in, you can expand your toolbar with that orange arrow and then type in your question to the question box and send them in to us. And while we wait for some questions to come in, I'm just going to mention an awesome resource that I hope that most of you know about, but if you don't, you should. It's the Washington Procurement Technical Assistance Center, commonly known as PTAC. PTAC provides no-cost assistance to firms interested in selling to government agencies and primes. They have 8 locations across Washington state. They just opened a location in Seattle, but they have locations in Spokane, down in Lacey and Thurston County. So it's an awesome resource. Visit their website to learn more, and you can schedule an appointment with an advisor and check out their events. So it does look like some questions are coming in now, so let's get to those. Okay, so the first question we have here is wondering how many contracts are awarded via MRSC in a given year, and if it's possible to know how many by category. That is an excellent question, and I really wish I had that data. Unfortunately, we're not part of the bid process, so all we're doing is providing the ability for the agency to run a search and contact businesses directly. I will say that we are working right now on gathering data just on those searches, which will give us sort of a ballpark understanding of how many searches are being run and in what categories and what's trending. And that is something that we're hoping that once we get that raw data, we can package it and then give it to you guys. I assume that's helpful information to know just what are the agencies looking for and how often are they looking for it. So if you guys have any feedback or questions around that, that's cool. Send it directly to me. I'm all ears, and I'm excited to dive into that information more and get it out to you. Another question we have here, do agencies know what membership that we have, and does that play a factor in deciding which vendor they use? No, the agencies don't know if you're enhanced versus basic. So they don't choose based on that. That doesn't impact how your business appears at all in the system. Everyone's on a level playing field as far as that goes. So that is not a concern. Let's see, another question. Can you repeat the 2 websites to access that can assist in certifying? Yes. That is the OMWBE website. That's the Office of Minority and Women-Owned Businesses Enterprises. So that's a great resource, and I'll just also send links to those websites when I send out the webinar. I'll make a note of that to myself. The other is SBA.gov, the Small Business Administration. So through those 2 resources, you can get certified for women-owned, minority-owned, small business classification, and veteran-owned, and so on. But again, I'll send those links out because I know I didn't include those on the slide. Let's see. Is it possible to sign up for multiple DBA business? We have an umbrella company that is both industrial and business-related services. Yes, it is possible. So you can have 2 separate accounts if those different business branches are serving different areas or providing different services. It's probably most helpful to keep those separate, just especially for the agency's clarification, so they know that they're looking at the right contacts for what they're looking for. But yeah, you can definitely create a second account if you need to keep those separate. If you have any trouble with that, contact us. Let's see. All right, so another question. How do you know how many of the same business types are on the MRSC roster? I assume we will all be reached out at the same time. Okay, so it's hard to say. I mean, you don't really know, I guess, as a business, how many others who offer similar services are on the roster, except for when an agency does contact you. Typically, what they're going to do is let you know who else they're contacting, just for transparency's sake and open records requirements. So at that point, when you are contacted, you'll know how many others are in that pool. And that can vary based on how the agency is searched, what the agency's needs are, and what their policies might be for contacting everyone on the list versus, like I mentioned earlier, having that internal rotation policy where they might contact 5 businesses at a time for electrician work, and then the next time they need electrician work, they're going to move down that list and contact the next 5. Let's see. Another question. 2 attendees asked what the enhanced membership cost. Please repeat. So the enhanced membership costs can vary based on your business size and business type. So the lowest level based on size and type of business is a $75 annual fee. So it's pretty minimal. For some really large consultancies, that fee is quite a bit larger, and we do have information on the website about that. So if you go to the website and click on the business tab and then click on application options, you're going to see what the different levels are and where you might fall, and that will let you know. If you want to email me directly, I can send you the direct link to that page. We're working on making that a bit easier to find. Oh, thank you, Leah. Leah sent out the link to you. So there you go. You can find it now. Awesome. Okay. All right. So another question here. What if we offer, let's see. if we offer training to agencies, can you tell them when we are doing the next agency training? Okay, cool. I'm assuming this is a business asking, if a business asking, you guys, some business out there offers agency training. Okay, that's great. Yeah, if you have trainings that you want us to let agency members know about, I'm happy to look at what those trainings are, as long as it aligns with our mission and our values here at MRSC. Yeah, I'm happy to send out, an email and just let agencies know what's coming up. I think that that would be good for them and good for you too. Another question, does MRSC encourage agencies to use the MRSC roster? I've never received an inquiry from an agency before. Yeah, we do. We do encourage them, definitely. We have webinars like this for agencies to encourage best practices and equitability, and we send out reminders to all of our agency members. Agencies are, generally they're excited about using a roster process because it's easier for them to get more competitive bids than it is with a full bid process, plus they don't have to pay for an advertisement. So agencies who are members generally should be using this service whenever they have a need that they can use a roster contracting process for. Of course, there are agencies out there who are not members, who maintain their own rosters, or they don't use a roster. So, of course, those folks, we try to get them on board, but some are just always going to do their own thing. Like the city of Seattle is its own beast, so they're probably always going to just maintain their own roster and do it that way. Let's see. All right, another question here. Any tips for making our business stand out? The best thing to do is just keep that information up to date. If you have those certifications, enter them. If you have specialty licenses, enter those. And the project summary section, which we didn't talk about, but that's a great place to provide references and quick summaries of work that you've successfully completed. That is a great place to highlight your skills and can boost the confidence that the agency might have in your business when they're reviewing your application. So that's another thing to look at. Let's see. Another question. You guys have great questions. You're very engaged. I like this. Who pays for this service? Well, agency members do pay a membership fee. They all have to pay an annual membership fee. So they're the folks who essentially support the service. And then, of course, those of you out there who are enhanced members, you're paying an annual fee. And that helps to support the service as well. So thank you. Another question here. How do we get the certification numbers for those areas we qualify for? Again, if you do qualify, you'll go to those two resources I mentioned earlier. That's the OMWBE and the SBA, the Small Business Administration. And again, I'll send links out to those two resources so that you can explore that further. Another question here. Could you remind me of the email to use to get the sample SOQ? Yeah, let me just advance this slide. Here's my contact information. And you can send that email to me and we can talk about getting you that SOQ sample. And then let's see, another question. Once contacted through the roster, the communication will be dealt with the agency itself, correct? Yes, that is correct. All of the legal documents, all of the contracts, all of your W-9s, that's all going to be outside of MRSC. That's all direct contact with the agency themselves. That's a good question. Thank you. Let's see, another question. So how would you know if you did not make the list for an agency, or they didn't contact you. This refers to your statement of call the agency to see why you were not contacted. Yeah, I guess the thing is you don't really know if you don't make the list unless they specifically are doing what they have, like a rotation process, and they're maybe only contacting a few but notifying other businesses, hey, we're doing this process. We're only contacting the first 5 and then rotating, but that can vary by agency as far as how they do that. Like I mentioned earlier, you will be contacted when you are on the roster that the agency needs and you provide the service that they're looking for. So it's really, I guess, not a question of whether or not you appear on a list. It's the fact that the agency has what they need and they're going to contact those folks who are eligible. Now, if you think that you should have been eligible or notified about a project, that's when you want to reach out and see what happened or why you weren't contacted. How will you know? After they award the contract, after they do that process, they do have to post who actually was awarded and what process they used. Generally, those agencies are going to post that on their websites, but that can, again, vary. But yeah, so they do have to post that. That's public information. And at that point, if you're, thinking, oh, I should have been contacted, that's when you want to start maybe digging and getting some more information so that you're clear on that. And maybe if there was something you didn't do that could have changed that outcome, then you can be proactive. Let's see, another question. Can we change from, let's see. Okay. Can we change from an enhanced membership to the basic account? Yeah, you can. You can do that. And that's something you can do in the application itself during your renewal period. So that's an option if you find that the enhanced membership isn't valuable to you. If you do that, you're going to have to reselect who you want to get listed with. And then also just keep in mind that the benefit of enhanced membership is that you can get listed with everyone and stay listed always, and have that, I guess, no fuss, no muss, kind of set it and forget it option. So just be aware that if you do switch, you'll have to be checking back more often and doing a little bit more of the work on your end. But yeah, it's something you can do. Let's see. Is there a place to mention certifications such as Microsoft certifications? Yes, there is a certification section where you can add your special licenses or certifications in the application. If you don't see a field where that fits, a good place to mention that kind of stuff is in your statement of qualifications document, which, like I mentioned, that's required for consultants, but anyone can upload a document there. And if you're maybe an IT provider or a software, provider, you can still include your marketing materials there or your capability statement and demonstrate the qualifications, licenses you have in that particular section in that document. So that may be a good place to include that kind of information. Let's see. Is there a way to offer free short workshops to agencies, get them acquainted with my work? Is that something I can mention on the qualifications? Sure. I don't see why not. I mean, if that's something that you are willing to offer and you want to include that in the materials that you upload, you can definitely offer that. There's no rule against that as far as I understand. I don't know how many agencies would take advantage of that offer. It's pretty generous. But But yeah, doesn't hurt to include that if that's something that you want to see if it gets you more attention or generates more interest. All right, another question here. Do you get feedback from agencies regarding how much information they really want or need from firms? We provide many different services and find it hard to know how much information, how many specific project descriptions to include for each category and subcategory of work to properly represent our experience. We have an 85-page roster, which is 2 to 3 pages of experience per category we provide. Is that too much? I'm assuming when you say an 85-page, that's like your statement of qualifications document. That's pretty long. I would say you want to pare that down quite a bit, at least for the purpose of this MRSC Rosters application and the statement of qualifications document. Once you're actually getting contacted, for your qualifications, because the agencies will contact you with their requests for proposals and other documents, then maybe you send them more detailed one, or maybe you send one that's really specific probably to the project versus just an overview. But I would say in the document you provide on this particular service on this platform, keep it a little bit shorter than what you have it, just because agencies, as much as we'd like for everyone to read everything, they're not going to, and a lot of folks are going to skim. They're going to be looking for bold words, headers, and just the keywords they're looking for that demonstrate experience. So yeah, I would probably try to trim that down if you can. Let's see. What is the difference between the business membership and public agency membership? Yeah, so business membership, you guys as businesses sign up, you're listed, and that's really all you need to do. You're not logging in to search, which is what the agencies are doing. They use their membership to access their individual rosters, so that's small works, consultant, vendor, and then they are searching those by the service categories and contacting businesses for projects. So their relationship, their membership is a bit more involved and has more of a functionality about it. And your membership is just making sure you're listed and active so that you get considered as these agencies are sending out opportunities. We've talked about adding an additional feature where businesses like primes could potentially search for subs, but that's right now just an idea, and we haven't really gotten a strong sense of whether or not businesses would actually be interested in that. So at this point, it's a really simple membership for your businesses out there. It looks like that was the last question, and this has been a great Q&A session. So thanks for being so engaged and for sticking around and listening to me ramble on with these answers. If we didn't get to one of your questions or we didn't fully answer, you have a follow-up, reach out to me. My email's here on the screen. And we'll get back to you with more answers, hopefully. So thanks again. You've been a great audience, and please enjoy the rest of your week. And thank you for spending time with us this morning. Bye.